The other thing I've been thinking about recently is how do I internalize the spiritual messages that I used to abide by so easily when I didn't necessarily have the vision that I do now? When my days were more right in front of my face, when my obstacles were more happenstance rather than things that I charge headforth towards. My name's Tarab. I make videos about emotional intelligence every day, and today I'm going to talk about the tendency of people that are walking fast or driving towards goals to see spirituality as something outside of what they require in order to get to where they want in life. I started off about 6 years ago asking the question, what is power? And I had watched a lot of animes and I had read The Wheel of Time, where I was about halfway through The Wheel of Time, a phenomenal series by Robert Jordan that tackles a lot of these issues of good and evil, a lot of the conceptions of men and women, a lot of the strength in general in humanity. And I said that for the next 5 years, as I accomplish dental school and as I go through my post-baccalaureate program, I will eventually fall to a definition that is satisfying of what power is. And what now I have come to realize power as is influence. Influence is power. Because at the end of the day, if I can say something that affects someone else, that affects multiple someone else's, then by extension, those someone else's, perhaps yourself, are carrying forward some of the philosophies, some of the things that I have tried to enact in my life, some of the realities that are a part of my universe. And frankly speaking, it's probably a more satisfying way to live life than to believe that everything that only I do and everything that only I can appreciate is the scope of my life as a whole. Meaning, if we have the graces in place, if we have the communication in place, and the achievements in place, then oftentimes our influence will be a natural byproduct of these things. Now, spirituality is something that I'm kind of coming in and out of, and I've made a lot of videos in the last week or so about it because I've been reading this book, The Celestine Prophecy, given to be my Nizar Ben Chok, my mentor and also kind of brand sculptor as of now. And the book talks about a lot of really, really cool things that I don't think I would have been able to come to terms with probably even 8 years before, when I was really getting into the spiritual texts, when I was getting not in like religious stuff. Like I'm not uh, mocking religious stuff in any capacity, but I'm more of a spiritual person. I don't really adhere specifically to the religious texts, though I might get into it later. Um, I read a lot of Siddhartha. I read a lot of Khalil Gibran, Rumi. I read transcendental meditation essays. I read um, all these different dystopian novels. I watched a lot of crazy stuff, a lot of insane animes, Psychopaths, Ghost in a Shell, Death Note, thing like very cerebral movies and documentaries. Listened to a lot of crazy music, and the calm, the peace that I felt in my days back then was a lot easier to get into because I had no sense of where I was going. And the reason that I started to Robify is because I was kind of fed up with that sense of not knowing where I'm going. Because I knew that life would probably be a lot more satisfying if I had things that I could build towards daily. And I believe that interweaving all of our achievements and all of our logic, there is an ether. There is something that holds it all together, that gives it meaning beyond what we see on the surface. or what our societal conception can actually put words to. I spent a lot of time in dental school over the last 6 years going to the woods and spending time to really care about how I felt around other living organisms, other systems in place that are older, more mature than I can probably ever be. I realized the power of water. I read The Art of War a couple of times, and the elements were a big part of that, which is always fascinating to me. A Sand County Almanac by Aldo Leopold, I believe the inventor of our modern conception of what ecology is. He said that a human fallacy is believing that our community is only as big as the humans in it. And as over the last, I'd say 4 or 5 months, really, maybe a little bit more longer than that, but ever since I got out of Philly, I have been thinking a lot more about worldly possessions, a lot more about monetary possessions, about growth in a business sense, in a capitalistic sense, rather than perhaps Eastern religion or philosophy sense. And the reason I like to get into things and really run with them for a while is because it gives me ample data to then bring back to my mystical library, so to speak, my chamber of secrets, I suppose. The the more ethereal kind of overarching picture of life as a whole. And what it's taught me is that I am capable of really pursuing incredible things and doing it consistently at a rate that some people are not capable of. Some people are. I hope you're one of those people. And that in order to remember the why, it's not even remembering the why, in order to feel the why, like right here, when I'm doing these things, when I'm sitting down in front of this camera, or when I'm talking to people, or in order to internalize that why, I must respect my spiritual side. The side of me that knows what peace is, the side of me that feels some sort of way when the sun comes up and the sun goes down, the side of me that gets tingles when I hear incredible music or create it. And the reason that I'm making this video is to be a journal for the other leaders that will require this in the future. For the other individuals that feel that there is something missing in their life, or that have experienced spiritual or peak moments in their life and have not had the opportunity to piece that together with the expectations of society. To some of you, this might sound like some cult bullshit or some, like this guy's done too many drugs. Maybe. But I generally, everything that I say in Terabify is something that I feel truly is something worth paying attention to. So, take the time. Take the time to feel this part of yourself out. Seriously. It's given me a lot more depth of character. It's given me a lot of really interesting, satisfying, beautiful things to think about. And it's constantly augmented my approach in life to make it so that I don't bask in too much sin in general. That I see when others are potentially doing that and know when not to do it. And sometimes know when to do it. It's a part of my checks and balances system. The internal pendulum, I suppose, that keeps this machine going, or this organism. But I would really encourage reading some books on it. I think whenever I've spent time in my life to pick up something from an author that I respect, and try to internalize the lessons and really just believe for a moment that what they're saying is truth, it's given me a wonderful chance to not just sit around and think about nothing, not just sit around and consume things for the sake of consuming, but really having a targeted motive to life. Ayn Rand's Atlas Shrugged has been a phenomenal data point in this very video that I'm making, actually, because it gave me the philosophy of capitalism in a nutshell, or a philosophy of capitalism in a nutshell. And I know many philosophies of spirituality, or the spirituality of progress, the spirituality of work, because of things that I've read in the past. So it's a process. It's a process. I'm nowhere close to the end, and well, I'll definitely continue to get some data, hopefully from your comments as well, and maybe conversations that we have. But food for thought for sure. Food for the soul, perhaps. Let it in. Let this universe into your life. Let your visions, let your conception of this life fertilize the ground for your ideas. Make it beautiful. See the beauty and thus make it beautiful. Appreciate the trees and the weather and the little coincidences that happen in life. Really appreciate them. I think it's almost an accentuation. I'm not sure where it comes from. But the more we realize it, the more we see it, the more it pops up. And for some reason, it doesn't feel wrong. Perhaps scary, but not wrong. Anyway, I hope you found this interesting. There is a video right here. If you would, check it out. Smash that thumbs up button, helps me a lot. And distribute these messages if you believe in them. Really, that's the most beautiful thing we can do in order to accrue the power that I was talking about earlier. The things we share are part of our influence. And actualize your potential, catalyst. This world needs you. Take care.